So let's dive a bit deeper on how we generated these reports. Maybe, Verlin, you can talk about the events that we have participated in.
Sure. Over the last several months, we've been at a number of different events all around the world, whether that's Spain, Singapore, India, Germany, France, and the US as well. We've monitored with our platform more than 100,000 visitors in these exhibitions in total, and that includes very detailed analytics around at least 100 different exhibitors across all of these exhibitions to be able to provide to them information about what's going on in their exhibition booth during these events. Once we measure all of these visitors, this is all done anonymously, by the way. We'll repeat that a couple of times. Then we actually are able to determine their exact visitors' exact location, how they move, how they behave, how long they spend in an area, where they started, where they go after it, and a lot of other analytics. But let me turn it over to Georgios to kind of explain first how it works, how we can actually do these measurements in such an accurate way.
So how it works. So first of all, we assume that everybody carries a phone today. All of our phones, they are emitting signals. Every 6 seconds, our phones actually are emitting signals. So we provide a solution that we can install in the premise of our customer, and we can estimate the distance between the phone that has emitted the signal and the solution. By using multiple devices inside a building, we can pinpoint the exact source of the signal as an extent, the location of the visitor.
Perfect. And as always, Georgios is being humble. It goes way beyond simple triangulation. This is using some very complex software algorithms to literally pinpoint the location of every single visitor and monitor their path and flow. After we've located them, then we can provide lots of different metrics, lots of different KPIs around things as you see on this chart here, which is one of our dashboards. You can see how many visitors, how long a visitor stays, what hours those visitors come. You can see the analysis of how long they stay based on which hour they come. You can compare that to others along the way. That leads to additional visualization opportunities. When we work with our customers and integrate, for instance, point of sale data, we then can provide some very unique and comprehensive conversion metrics. And that's not just conversion as we know it at the total store, but it could be conversion at a specific department, a specific shelf, a specific end cap display, or at standing in front of a specific product. All of that is enabled through this really innovative locationing technology. Another thing that we also provide is the solution is not just one way, it's sensing signals, but if the shopper, the visitor, or the passenger opts in to a program that the business provides them, we then are able to provide some really unique capability, a hyper accurate indoor locationing capability to guide people to stores or departments or merchandise that they may be looking for. Additionally, while we're doing that, because we have a pinpointed location of that person, we're able to allow our customers to push marketing messages, to push promotions, and integrate to their CRM and loyalty tools to be able to maximize the customer experience and value that that customer has while in that business.
That was a very nice introduction, Verlin, of our technology and its capabilities. So let's start looking into some data that we have collected throughout all of these expos. So as Verlin already mentioned, we have been traveling to expos in USA, we have been traveling to Middle East, we have been traveling to Singapore, India, Spain, expos in France, expos in Netherlands, and here back to Germany. The very obvious trend that you have seen, and I'm not sure whether this is even an insight for you, is the fact that during the second day of the expo, we always have the highest attendance. Actually, there is an increase during the second day of the expo of 12% more visitation. And the expos that they have been more prolonged, so longer days, usually third day and the following, we see a decrease on visitation, an average decrease of 38% usually, which is a bit high. This pattern is not unique for us. We have seen this again. We're working with many smart cities where we see exactly this 12% average increase during the second day of an event. So we have several smart cities where we can monitor the success of several events, where we can constantly see this 12% increase during the second day of an event. And then the standard decrease of 6-8% average during the second day, the third day, and the fourth day. We can even go so far to guess what is the best day of organizing an event. So when events in a smart cities begin on Tuesday, then usually on Wednesday we may have as high as 121% increase of visitation of people. You can also watch, we have these QR codes very often in our site, so you can scan the QR codes and also you can watch videos of customers that they are using today our solution, and you can hear their own testimonials. Back to you, Verlin.
Perfect. Thank you, Georgios. The other thing we can do, going back to the exhibition data, is not just look at the total number of exhibitors per day. We can break it down by hour. In fact, the solution allows us to break it down into much smaller increments as well. But what you can see here is the comparison of first, second, and third day. And there's some interesting insights that pop out. These may not be surprising to many of us who go to expos on a regular basis, but the data is actually proving it out. Number one, on the first day, the busiest hours are in the afternoon. Obviously, that early afternoon is the most busy. On second day, what we found in the data is it's busiest in the late morning. And you can see that again in the figures here that are shown on the screen. Also, what we see, we can compare this to many of the customers that we have experiences with working in malls. When we've got shopping mall customers, we've done a lot of analysis, and here's a comparison and mapping of data from one of our customers. And what it shows you here in the green box is the peak number of visitors during the week. In this case, during the week, peak visitors occur at about 5 p.m. Or 1700 hours. Compared to Saturdays, where the peak number of visitors occurs much earlier, closer to 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and in fact, then falls off much steeper than it does during the weekdays. So what this can do is help not only mall operators, but retailers and exhibitors at exhibitions think about how to hold on to customers, visitors longer, and what they need to do to schedule things that keep people in their retail store, mall, or in an exhibition booth longer periods.
The best part of our technology is that we can also dive deeper. We can also go to analyze visitation in the booth, or you can consider, for example, a shopping center. So we can analyze not only the visitation of an entire shopping center or of an entire expo, but we can also break it down to booths. For example, we can do the first thing that comes to the mind. So whether the size matters in the booth. So, and here we can see a clear correlation. So there is the bigger the booth, the more the visitors, and we see this in every expo we go. The same happens also for the duration. So the bigger the booth, the more likely your customers or your visitors are to stay longer in your booth. And another interesting fact is that the more visitors you have in your booth, the more likely it is for them to stay longer. And this is also not unique to us, because we have seen this into retail customers. So where we correlate the sales against the duration that people spend, and we see that there is an increase on the likelihood of them buying during the increase of sales. So you can see by the 10th minute, let's say, that there is an increase on likelihood for people to buy a product, but this doesn't go forever. So after a while, there is a drop in the likelihood of a sale to Orchard.
That's some really interesting information. It's great to see the correlations of human behavior between various circumstances. And that's really powerful for a retailer to be able to see that by holding on to people a little bit longer, they can get greater sales. But if they hold on to them too long, they'll actually see a decrease in sales. Seems to follow standard economic theory. Not only can we show that kind of correlation and that kind of information, but we can show some conversion information. And here, what we'll share with you is this is from the expos themselves. Number one, we looked at speeches and presentations and what that means for people going to booths. And so number one, we measured that if someone went to a speech or presentation, would they go to another booth after that speech or presentation or not? And what we saw happen was that that once a speech was done, that the nearby booths captured by far more visitors immediately after a speech than any booths that were far from the presentation stage. So in this case, nearby exhibitors picked up 44% of the people that went to the speech or presentation. And other exhibitors that may have also had a large presence but been further from the stage, other exhibitors did not pick up nearly as many attendees. We also found that people that attend a booth, this is really, or attend a presentation or a speech, 70% of the people that attend a speech do then go to another exhibitor's booth. If someone does not attend a speech, then they're only 30% likely to go to one more booth. So this is a very interesting insight to drive people to speeches, because that drives people to booths. The next one is something that you've probably seen if you're a mall operator or thinking about malls. Again, this is in an exposition. So out of everyone that goes to the presentation, 69% of those end up going to other booths. 44% go to a booth that is right around the presentation area. 26% go to the next ring of booths around that area. And just 17% go to booths that may be 3 or 4 booths away from that presentation area. So the effect of the presentation reduces very quickly based on the distance away from the presentation itself. We've seen this same effect in malls. When you look at anchor tenants, out of 100% of people that go to an anchor tenant, whoever that may be, in the malls that we've measured so far, then we see about 10% of people going to nearby stores, the stores that are directly adjacent to that anchor tenant. And then stores that are a little bit further, only 6% get there, and a little less than 6% get beyond that second tier. So it becomes very important in malls to design anchors at the right spots in the right places to drive the ideal traffic through the entire mall. Georgios, back to you.
So we have a little bit of ranking based on the characteristics that we just presented of how booth attendance gets formed. So, for example, in one of the latest expos we have visited, the 5th most visited booth that we had from those that we had monitored managed to attract 9% of the visitors in their booth, which was close to the 4th one, while the 3rd most visited booth managed to attract 10% of the visitors, and the 1st most visited booth managed to attract 11% of the visitors. Of course, this is the top 5 of 50, so you can imagine how the trend would go, but this was the highest success. And we have also a ranking on the duration spent, which is quite long, so 31 minutes for the top 5, and the 4th, which is actually very close to the 4th one. We have 33 minutes for the 3rd one, 34.8 minutes for the 2nd, and 37 minutes for the 1st. So a big difference between the 1st most visited booth based on duration when compared to the 5th as I mentioned, from more than 50 booths. This is the speeches. So the people who had a speech during during an expo, they managed to attract 8% of the total visitors of an expo during their speech. The fifth most visited speech, the fourth most visited speech attracted 9% of the visitors, and the first most visited speech managed to attract 23% of the visitors.
That's huge. That's a huge attendance actually for speeches. We've obviously protected the names of the innocent and the guilty somewhat here. For everyone that participated with us at these expos and allowed us to measure their booths, we're going to give the results to them specifically for their detailed results, but we didn't want to share that confidential information here on this call. We're open for questions. There's a question function here in Zoom. If you hit that Q&A section, you're welcome to type in some questions. We have been getting some questions via other means from people that know us and have our contact information. So Georgios, the first question we got was, are you able to protect people's privacy, or how can you protect people's privacy when you're gathering such specific location information?
Yes, very specific question also, and thank you. This is also the first question I bet that we have from my side. So first of all, we do not, so all of these data don't involve any personal identifier, so we do not sense or collect any personal identifier. Everything is done by consequently tracking. So there is they cannot be linked to an individual identifier. In particular, we had here data protection authorities that we invited to our office to see our solution, because this is how certain we are for our anonymity solution. And so we have never had any objection from data protection authorities, and actually we have also documentation that was provided to us by data protection authorities here in Germany that confirm the anonymity of the nature of anonymity, the anonymized nature of our information.
Yeah, in fact, I'll share with everyone, I just joined Ariadne not too long ago, and one of the compelling reasons to do that was just what Georgios just said. The GDPR authorities in Germany, which we think are the strictest in the world, came and actually evaluated the solution and provided a written certification that we are GDPR compliant. And so that's a pretty strong endorsement. The second question we have that's come in is, where have you seen the biggest value within a shopping mall environment? Where do you see the biggest value of this kind of information in a shopping mall?
Yes, this actually is also a very good question, and actually a very good timing, because this is very closely related to my previous meeting where I was speaking with a shopping center owning company who do the due diligence, or who regularly do due diligence for the shopping centers, and they need to know what is the value of their assets, and they need to know what is the value of the assets inside the shopping centers. So for example, what we already presented, for example, with anchor tenants. Anchor tenants usually get a very huge discount because they are considered bringing traffic to a shopping center. Of course, this traffic is never measured, so we provide a service there to measure the traffic that an anchor tenant gets, and how much of this traffic is distributed to the other stores, to every small store. So we give a very good argument for the asset owners, for the owners of a shopping center, to optimize their leasing prices, and even hack on the logic of an anchor tenant. We have identified, for example, very tiny stores that they are acting as well as a very big store to anchor traffic to the shopping center.
Great. The next question we have from Farah is, are you able to create reports that fit each department? In other words, Can you give a higher level report to a CEO, a mid-level report, and then a lower level report to maybe a category or department manager?
Very good question too. And yes, actually we have weekly or monthly automated reports for every team. So we distribute, our dashboard is distributed between different teams in a shopping center. Not only shopping centers, actually also retailers as well. And the report that marketing team is very far from what operations get, and they can be very much focused. Actually, the monthly report that we send, we constructed it together with several CEOs that own or operating assets.
Perfect. So the answer is yes. In fact, the dashboards are, there's a set of standard dashboards, but they are extremely easy to create. And so we can create dashboards at whatever level are necessary. The next question we have is from Bob. Bob is asking, how challenged is the platform or solution from strong communication signals coming from other sources? Does that have any impact on the solution itself?
It's a very technical question and also very accurate, because indeed there can be challenges, but I can guarantee you we have customers with very high visitations, like airports, for example, where we managed to track location of 9,000 people that they are moving simultaneously in an area. So it cannot compare with camera solutions or depth solutions, which start becoming confusing when there is too much visitation in an area.
Yeah, great point. The real answer: other communication signals will not baffle this. We're able to pinpoint specific cell phone signals and then the direct location of those signals. Another question from Bob, again, is with that, where is the actionability of the results? And maybe I can take a shot at this question. What we've shared today is pretty generic because we want to protect the confidentiality of the people providing the data. But as you can imagine, in a retail environment or a mall environment, we're going to give very detailed data of where people are, when they're there, how long they're staying there, and specifically the paths that they take through a facility. So for instance, at one of our customers, a large international furniture retailer that many of us know, they're actually using our data to change the layout of the store as they learn which areas drive the most traffic and how they can position other merchandise along those pathways to drive increased sales. And they found some very interesting results where some of the products that they thought were pulling traffic into specific areas are not the actual products causing that traffic. And they found some interesting results in terms of shortcuts that customers are taking to bypass critical parts of the store, allowing them to make changes in their floor plan and their merchandise set to be able to drive even greater results, millions of dollars in additional revenue. Next question we have from Dorota. A lot of people carry more than one phone. Are you able to account for that when you're analyzing the data?
Good, also question to the point. We do not count phones. We do not, so forget the identifiers, forget phones. This is not how our solution works. So our solution works by collecting points and then forming the trajectory of how the most likely trajectory that somebody has formed. So we do not count phones, we count trajectories, and people who carry 2 or 3 phones form still a unique trajectory, so we can count the trajectories. And actually, every phone is more than one phone because our phones don't have only one antenna, they have several antennas. This is why we can very often pinpoint the location of a phone.
Yeah, I think that's, again, a really innovative way of handling this. The signals are kind of the initiator of the data point, but immediately the trajectory or the path is being measured, so that if a watch and a phone and a tablet and a laptop are all walking in the exact same trajectory, then it's counted as one rather than multiples. And there's also an interesting challenge when you have multiple people in a shopping group that have multiple phones. but the software is able to learn very quickly even small deviations in that trajectory or that path and differentiate between those individuals. So it's very sophisticated. Let's see. I'm trying to read the next questions here and keep up with them.
I think the next question is related to, so it is unfinished, but I think it's related to the surface area of, this is why it says huge. I believe that they want to ask whether we can cover a high surface. And this is again,
how big of an area can we cover?
Yeah, this is how I interpret. And so each of our device, so if you install a camera, let's say that you want to track the visitation in an area, you can probably scan maybe maximum 20 square meters area. One of its devices, it covers 400 square meters area, and it can go even higher because the number of devices that we install exponentially increases the area that we can cover per device. We have even shopping centers, for example, where we have each device covering 1,200 square meters area.
Yeah, and that's probably worth mentioning that Ariadne's offering is actually a software platform that's software as a service. We use some of our own devices. We don't charge for those devices. We charge for the software service. And we only use those devices when there isn't another platform that can provide the same functionality to sense those signals. A question from Mahmoud: can we connect Ariadne with a smart camera system?
I don't know what is the purpose of it. So it is. So I can find a use. I can find. So for example, we cannot get gender with our devices. So we can have these footfall cameras in the entrance and extract the gender and tag it along the trajectory. So this is a common use case. But yeah, I think that
makes sense. And I know we've overstepped our time here, but Bob asks a very important question, and that is, Georgios, I keep mispronouncing your name because I speak English natively. He's asking, how do you pronounce it correctly?
Yes, so with a Greek accent will be Georgios, but George is also fine. Thank you so much.
What I am learning, Bob, is that George is the most common name in Greece. I think we have 5 or 6 Georges in the company now, unlike Verlin. So with that, if there aren't any other questions, we thank you for your valuable time today. Wonderful to have you participate. We'll obviously, this is being recorded. We'll post links to it so that you can share it with others. And have a wonderful rest of your day, week, and have a very happy holiday.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.